edition of the Indy Investor Speakeasy. Today we got a good friend of mine, my old police partner from Baltimore County, Rob Estes, and old partner of mine. We've done a few flips together in the Maryland area as well. Rob now works. Where do you work now? Bank of America. Is your
Yeah,
W-2,
that's
and then
technically my job.
yeah, is his W-2 job. Owns a few mobile home parks now. Got into that space and kind of just lives remote and works from wherever he wants to live at. So I'll let you take over and kind of take over the story back from, I guess, when me and you were on the police department and how you got to where you are today, and then we'll probably interrupt you along the way to ask some questions or
I'm sure.
so.
Yeah, fair. I guess just kind of the quick overview of my real
Your
estate
life.
endeavors here, my life. Yeah, obviously from the police department, back when we first met, Brooks, I don't even think we knew what NOI was or we knew any of these terms, man. And I was like, well, I guess better start there and learn some of the basics. So in the car, and I tell people this all the time, it's like, use the time that you have that's given to you to try to educate yourself the most, right? I think education and educating yourself in this business and constantly educating yourself with just the change in tides all the time, right? And environments is just huge. So that's the first thing I preach to everybody. And that's what I think we both did, sitting there in parking lots and, not that we did that often, but pulling up YouTube and just educating ourselves, right? So like that was step one.
Yeah,
And
Rob
then
actually introduced me to Bigger Pockets.
Oh,
I
yeah?
mean, everybody gets introduced to Bigger Pockets at some point, and Rob was the one who was like, have you heard of this website?" So,
yeah, and it wasn't near as big as it was back then as it is now. I mean, hell, I think Brandon Turner, he wasn't even like hosting the show at that time. So yeah, it was still a lot. A lot has changed. But yeah, so from there, obviously got to the point where I was like, all right, I need to start looking for deals. And then finally, had done enough deals. I look back now, I didn't know what I was doing, but yeah, again, gotten to the point where I got comfortable enough analyzing deals, comfortable enough with the numbers. And then at that point, it was like, you don't want to get caught into that analysis paralysis stuff, right? So I was like, I have to jump into something. Found my first deal on Craigslist, believe it or not, in Kentucky, in some remote little area of Kentucky. Flew out there. It was a total shithole. And I still have the property today. It's about a 30 unit mobile home park. Very rural area within Kentucky. And have completely flipped that property around now, and it's been consistently one of my like most occupied and highest occupancy parks that I've had to date. It's so weird that like this little remote town has such high demand in its affordable housing, genre. And it's just been a really good property. After we kind of tightened the lease, so to speak, a little bit on some of the tenants, got the bad out, put the good in. It's gotten a lot easier and a lot better. Very quiet, easy to operate park now. So yeah, from there I did.
No. I can't let you
Yeah.
move from that. So wait, hold on. You go in Bigger Pockets. You start analyzing properties. You find a mobile home park.
Oh,
And your first thing that you're buying is a 20 to 30 unit type of property.
well, I
Like,
would say, well, me and him did a couple flips before this
yeah.
together.
oh, true. Yeah.
We had
Mhm.
we had a little bit of experience, and you rent
Right.
out like 3 other places already that were
Yeah.
so I guess he had a little bit of experience before he jumped into the mobile home park.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, really quickly, like, how does one analyze a mobile home park? How is that different than analyzing potentially a single family home?
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's parts of it that are the same, and then parts that are a lot different, right? So like, I think with the mobile home park stuff, you just have to really, I don't know, like there is, it's just money in, money out, right? Like everything else. Like you just got to really just watch what your numbers are, and then going into some of these parks. So what I do with my parks, there are a lot of creative financing, and well, all of them pretty much have been creative financing, and these mom and pop owners that literally have stuff, rent rolls and numbers on Rolodexes and in notebooks, right? So like it's kind of going in, figuring out like what they're doing wrong and seeing the value add and what you can actually, the potential in these parks, right? And that's again a big focus on what I do. So you go in and you pay minimal down for these parks and minimal for these parks, and then just make them, do the refi process and make them something that, they definitely weren't before and never had the capability of being with that previous owner, right? With not professional books and all this other stuff. So that, I don't know if I answered the question, but like, that's just and then in the single family world, I mean, I'm sure you guys have experience with this. It's just like, one property, one house, one income, like there's only so much you can do. So it's just like, it's almost like the single family home on steroids, right? It's just multiplies that income, multiplies that, responsibility too. But, and obviously the mobile home park world, it's great if you can get into something where it's more based on lot rental, where you only have to care for the land, the landscaping, the roads, and just basically the dirt, right? The dirt and infrastructure, and where obviously as our rentals, something breaks, we fixing it. So, I've definitely had rentals when we acquire these properties, and we're actually just at the tail end of doing a huge lease to own conversion for all of our properties now. But yeah, it's a scale, right? From a single family to a multifamily, it's just taking that number. And a lot of people are really afraid, like, oh my God, I can only handle one rental and I can only purchase one rental at a time. Well, quite honestly, the process of buying a one single family house is pretty close to being the same as buying a 50 unit apartment complex or a 50 unit mobile home park. A lot of it is very similar, and quite honestly, it's easier because then you have the funds to have somebody help you. And that I have found is the key to all of this. So as I'm sure you guys know, you can get bogged down in this very quickly, and be over your head pretty quick. So.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of it when I think when me and you were first kind of going over the numbers of that first one, and you had done a lot more research on it than me because I wasn't looking into that space. But I remember you saying that there was a opportunity there for when these were tenant owned properties or on the actual pads, the opportunity to lease to own them to make money that way, and even flipping out some of the old ones that were in rough shape and bringing in the new ones and then doing a lease to own there. It's just another way to kind of bring your income up as well, because you're just seller financing those to those owners. And then once they're paid off, and then you still get the rent from the ground rent as well. But I remember you saying, like, when you were analyzing these deals, you're actually looking for some that were tenant owned so you could actually build the income. Can you explain that a little bit more, how you were analyzing deals that way?
Yeah, for sure. And even the first one, to your point, so this was right before everybody got into the mobile home park space, and there was a bunch of stuff on Bigger Pockets and all the podcasts and everything talking about them. But when I bought that park, there was probably, I think, 8 or so empty spaces, and 1 or 2 that I had to get out of there that were just tear down. I ended up bringing in 8 mobile homes within, I think, 3 months for less than $10,000. I think I got 3 of them for free. A couple of them were like $1,000. And then the most money I spent, well, I say under $10,000 for the homes themselves. And then I had to pay, this was back when you get a mobile home move for, $1,500 to $3,000, depending on how far away it was. So I was bringing some of these in from Ohio for like $3,000, set up on site, boom, ready to go. So it was great, man. But then, yes, to your point, I would get them for free or next to nothing. and then put them on, we do a 4-year lease to own structure where essentially you charge market rent and then do like a rent credit, right? So right now, like a 2-bedroom, $750 market rent. So when we can bump up the pad rent a little bit with that too, like for refi purposes, but, and I can go into that later, but essentially, we charge them $350 lot rent, and then we'll apply the other $400 to, like I don't know, a rolling credit. And then at the end of the 4 years, it ends up being like $25,000, $20,000 to $25,000 per home that we sell in additional capital, just selling these homes off. And then obviously the continued lot rent, et cetera, after that. So
Yeah, no, that's super interesting, and something that I hadn't really thought about. It's not really a thing in the single family space or even the apartment space. You essentially
right.
have two assets in this situation. The first asset's the land itself, and that's tied to all the utilities and all that stuff that I'm assuming, responsible for. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that. The second thing that you've got there, potentially in some situations, is the actual building itself, which is a
Mm-hmm.
movable asset. In that
Mm-hmm.
situation, it's a depreciating asset, but one that you can sell off separately and still get the income from the land and the utilities themselves. Is that generally right?
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And the great part too is we obviously try to get folks, in there that don't have an opportunity in the single family home space, right? We do a 0% interest loan. It's basically, again, like we can't we can't charge interest just based on the Dodd-Frank and everything like that, and a bunch of other legalities. But we give them this opportunity with this 0% interest, especially these days in this higher interest world, from where we were back when I started this. And the reason why we do that is, and obviously with all the background checks and everything, we try to really bring in a good tenant base that will have the longevity there, right? They'll establish that pride of ownership and all that other good stuff. And that's really what we've tried to drive from what it was before. And the good thing is if they do default, which I've had a few, not a lot, but a few, and you honestly just rinse and repeat. You go in there, turn the unit, and the new tenant comes in, usually within, honestly, 30 days, and they start fresh, 4-year day one, start all over again. And then, you get to keep all the funds from the previous person. So they just leave their lease agreement. So,
Yeah,
or
when
their
you're looking
LCO
for
agreement.
these properties, are you looking for the ability to put some of these mobile homes, like you want pads available so you can actually there's that where you can actually increase all this and almost burr it out, in a sense where you can get
Yeah.
this thing refied. And I mean, obviously there's going to be capital up front for that, but are you looking for one that's got all the pads occupied, or are you looking for ones where you can actually build on?
No, occupied, honestly. These days, the lower or the higher occupancy that we have going in it's so much easier, man. It's so much less of a lift. Like I said, if we were back, 5-6 years ago, when I could bring 7, 8, mid-90s homes in there for less than 20 grand, sure. But obviously the value, is in those lots there to get them occupied because, during that refi, they're each worth, depending on numbers, but we'll call it roughly 30 grand a pop, during a refi. So it's obviously, definitely beneficial to fill those empty lots, but it's tough. It's probably one of the biggest pain points that I've heard in all of our investor networks. With investors going in with, 50 or 40, 50% vacancy and saying, oh, I'm going to just fill these houses up. Well, easier said than done. You know what I mean? It's very tough. It's a lot of logistics, a lot of finding the right houses, first of all. And now everybody and their mom are looking for these decent mobile homes. So they're going for, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 for a, late 90s, early 2000 decent looking mobile home, which is insane when I could go buy a brand new one for 55, 60,000, So it's like I said, it's a lot of logistics. And then, dealing with a new home, it's a lot. So.
Yeah. No, I bet.
Occupancy is definitely what I look for when going in. So one or
Interesting.
two, a few lots, yeah, fine, I can deal with it. Even throw some RVs. That's another kind of pivot that I've used. I can actually put typically 2 RVs in one lot and then almost double my income. Actually, probably even more than that because I pay like at one of my parks, I 600 a lot, and then per RV, and so 1,200 per lot as opposed to like a $300 lot rent, and I'm paying utilities which aren't too much, a couple $100 a month. So realistically, I'm doing better with the RV and filling the lot. To your point, but yeah, so you just have to pivot, see what's the easiest, path of least resistance, I guess, is the way I'm trying to put it. You know what I mean? And just get the lot filled, one way or the other. Get the income in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I know I kind of cut you off there as you were digging into it. We talked about your first deal. Then it sounds like you probably had some learnings from that one. What was
Mhm.
the next step?
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, so I got this property and it's near Lexington. It's about 30 minutes outside of Lexington, Kentucky. So I'm like, all right, I want to focus in that area, right? For many things. My travel, when I'm going there, I was obviously very involved. I was the only one doing all this stuff. I was managing it myself. Me and this one on-site guy, I have these books I'm trying to do by myself. Just your typical startup story, kind of like, wearing all hats, right? So I know I want to scale. This one property is not gonna, do it for me. So I ended up finding another mom and pop who had about 100 unit within 2 parks in Moorhead, Kentucky, like Moorhead State University and all that's right there. They're about an hour outside east of Lexington and about 35, 40 minutes north of that first park I had. So ended up working out a deal with them. I actually remember, it's a funny story with that one. I ended up basically verbally closing that deal while I was hiking the Grand Canyon. I told my wife, I was like, listen, we gotta stop. I have to talk to this dude. I have to take this call because, they were just kind of very bull-nosed sellers and, had to really cater to them. So I ended up closing that deal, while hiking the Grand Canyon, which was kind of a funny story. I'll never forget that. So, got those two and then just got a couple of more parks. I think I got 3 more parks in Moorhead. I have 13 now, or 11 mobile home parks and 2 apartment complexes at this point. So
Wow. So and that's over what period of time?
I started like about 4 years ago.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so I would be a lot bigger, but I've run into, and I'm sure we'll get into this, so I've run into quite a few problems in the past year with my internal management, and just kind of being able to focus strictly on scaling, which I did those first 2 years. I've got most of those properties within my first 2 years. And then, like I said, I had to hit the pause button and really focus on keeping the internals of the company going the way they need to go. And finally now, I know I'm jumping way ahead here, but finally now got what's seeming to be a rock star, new portfolio manager, who's
Yeah.
really, really doing well. And she only started 2 weeks ago. So very much looking forward, to her. She comes from big big player, mobile home park world, uh, management. So I'm very fortunate to have her.
Yeah, well, there's no judgment here for having scaling issues, having management issues. I recently told
Yeah.
the story about having been robbed by for 6 figures by property managers twice. So like no judgment at all from this side of things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? How did you structure your team? Did you use external management at any point in time? Like let's actually talk about kind of your
Yeah.
progression, your management.
Yeah, yeah, good question. So I think it's like your typical one, right? So like again, I had the first 3 or 4 parts. I think when I added my fourth part, I was like, all right, I need some help. Like I need to get this. I'm not gonna be the mom and pop. I'm gonna make this as professional as I can. So I actually went from self-managing everything, having my own books and all that stuff myself, to hiring a third local third-party property management company. It went pretty well. Like as far as the organization and books, it went well. It helped me with what my needs were at that point in time. However, then when I added all of my properties in Missouri, I added almost 4 properties in like 3 months. It was like 115 units out in Missouri. That third-party property management company was like, we don't want any parts of that. Like it's too much for us. You kind of scaled way too fast. We can't keep up, whatever. So they dropped that ball on me. So I ended up hiring a portfolio manager, and going that route, like an internal one, right? That worked for our company. And I felt like that change was really good for me, just because I had a lot more control as far as like the day to day. There wasn't a million properties that this person was worried about. They were worried about all of our property. So I really did like that change. And I still do. And I think like I would never use the outside third party management company again, just because I don't know. I just like, I like the focus on our properties. And again, when I continue to scale again, it's going to be super significant, have an internal team.
Yeah.
So yeah. And now we have like through these properties, we have our portfolio manager all the way down to, our on-site managers, area managers, and our service techs. I think I have a team of like about 10 right now. I have a service director as well, who's responsible for all the service stuff and all the state. But yeah.
Gotcha. And it sounds like you're able to, for at least quite a few of these roles, have remote employees. How are you thinking about that
Yeah.
hiring process?
One, don't steal from me. Yeah, no.
No, we're just gonna steal your ideas.
Yeah. So a lot of this you can do remotely, right? I obviously you have to have your boots on the ground in your MSAs where you have a lot of your concentration, right? So you have to have that one, and then if you like, and then anybody above them that can just manage them and do the books and do all the back end stuff that your third party property management company was doing prior. I think that's kind of where I look. So like, and obviously, these days most people really like these remote jobs. So I'm like the person that I have currently that I just hired came from an office, like a required go into the office type of space where there was really no more room for her to grow. At least at that point in time. And, one of the advantages to what I offered was it's fully remote. You can work from the Bahamas or California. I don't really care as long as the job gets done. So, I think that was really good as far as being able to like have a little bit maybe more on some other bigger players that, kind of require that office visit type of thing or work from office type of thing. So
So do
yeah.
you basically have like a manager, for lack of a better term, or a maintenance guy, a manager, a guy who kind of like looks over the park, and then you have this
Mm.
other person that kind of looks over everything, like kind of talks to them, and then they have, obviously you already have your contacts, so you contacted each one in terms of fixing stuff or whatever. Um, is that kind of how the structure looks right now?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have me, my portfolio manager who now, right, basically he runs the entire company, right? And eventually like I kind of want to just like let her, I'm kind of training her to just be me, right? Be in more, like she's way smarter than me and all the books and all that stuff, which is obviously who I wanted to hire, somebody that can teach me something, right? So after she gets the hang of all the, she's brand new, so, gets the hang of everything going on internally. I want her to run all operations of the company. I don't want to be really even involved except for high end, whatever executive decisions that need to be made. And then I want to focus back on scaling the company. So, so basically we have her and then our service director, and he's very in tune with all the service related stuff. And he manages all of our service techs, all of our on-site techs. And even gets involved in a lot of the other stuff, like all the receipt reconciliation. He manages all that, all the property vacancy stuff. He manages all that. We use Monday.com a lot for a lot of that stuff. So yeah, he's very in tune with a lot of like, he kind of helps the portfolio manager, but has his own little thing with like the service side of stuff. So those are kind of our executive like leadership managers that work remotely, and everybody else, like our area managers, have all the properties in each of the 2 major MSAs that we have. And then I have a third one down in Bristol, Tennessee, and that park is pretty self-sufficient. But the other 2 area managers, are then responsible for all the people under them. So like some of the service tech, they work with the service director on that. And then there's some other just, whatever, all the other stuff that goes into, the day to day. So they run that for us on
Yeah.
site.
That's all wildly impressive. And it kind of interesting to hear your whole matrixed organization that you've set up there. We've got kind of the local and then the overarching.
Yeah.
Would love to kind of take a quarter of a step back. Most of the people I think who are listening here aren't going to be in a situation where they probably are building out teams that are quite as developed as yours, and they're not going to have the multiple properties that you've currently got. So I would love to get an understanding from your side. Hey, if you were starting over from scratch today and you were looking to rebuild what you were doing, what would that process look like? How would you analyze properties today? Because obviously it sounds like the market has changed a decent amount. And secondarily, how would you approach the management side as you've got that 30 unit that you're trying to scale from 30 and up?
And finding the deal.
Yeah. So I think that's a really interesting like question, especially these days, because it has really changed from, I mean, my kind of perspective on it hasn't changed too much within the creative financing realm, but it has because of interest rates and because of different things, right? So like, and then obviously, the value of properties has doubled, in the past 5 years, which is insane. So I would say right now, and I'm dealing with this with a couple different properties that I'm trying to get under contract. It's like these sellers sometimes have the wants in what they want for their property, right? So I think doing all the creative financing, one, I would definitely go that route, especially starting off. So I didn't have, just to backtrack, I didn't have really any money at all starting off. I even asked my parents for like 25 grand on my, like, I think it was my first park. And they were like, yeah, no, we're not investing in a mobile home park. Are you kidding me? So like, we're not doing that. So I literally had to go and find like my own money, like every dollar I had, like I was saving, just for the first down payment, right? And then I had bought a house and learned about the home equity line of credit. So I ended up applying for one of them and utilizing my home equity line of credit for the purchase of my first couple properties, which I highly recommend if you have assets to look into how to leverage them, right? Use them, because ultimately you go in, you purchase these new properties, in a couple of years you go in and you refi those properties and you can pay that loan back, and then you have multiple cash flowing assets, right? Plus a lot of fun if you do it right. So that's definitely how I would start. For anybody that tries to use that excuse of I don't have enough money or I can't do this or whatever. Honestly, that's garbage. It's just about how much drive do you have, how much desire do you really have to scale? How big do you really want to get? Some people don't want to get as big as I want to get. I want to be in that, top 75 mobile home park player space. That's where my goals are, especially top 100. And I definitely am going to get there. It's just, your approach has to be a little bit different as you scale. As you scale, you get nicer and nicer properties. You kind of have to be willing to like put in a little elbow grease at first with some of these properties, depending on, especially if you're going in the mobile home park world or even apartment world. Both apartments that I purchased were garbage when I bought them, and we went in, completely renovated them. I like 4x the value of them, and now they are 100% occupied and doing phenomenal. So it's just a matter of effort, honestly. It's what it comes down to, man. And
There's
then
always
always an excuse. I could make a million excuses. I've gotten punched in the face so many times, especially with this internal management stuff. But like, yeah, it's just a matter of drive. So, and then, like I said, going back to your initial question, I would definitely focus on the creative financing. And my opinion on it is, I want to acquire as many properties as I can for as little money down as I can. I'm willing to pay the money on the back end because the bank is going to pay most of it after I get the numbers right, and do a refi, and the money will never come out of my pocket. I can leverage that property. So I actually will get money in my pocket on that refi.
So
So
you're
I hope that makes
in the
sense.
strategy, right?
The
You're
what
doing the
now?
burst for commercial real estate.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you go in, fix it up, and refi it, and then get a huge tax. And the great thing with these commercial properties are, like if you can get, an 8 cap refi, 7 cap refi on some of these properties, depending on how nice you make them, and obviously the MFA and all that stuff, but and go in and add all those, not even low hanging fruits, but just kind of like middle of the road, bringing in some houses and filling those empty lots and some curb appeal stuff. Like you can, it's insane how much value you can create from someone that didn't know how to operate it properly before.
Yeah. No, I think that
Yeah.
that makes a ton of sense. All right. So what I know you said you're trying to get into that top 75. What does that look like? How many do you
Yeah.
got to get to for that to be something that's in the
I
cards?
guess before we go there, I want to know, how are you finding how would you go about finding these deals?
Yeah.
Your
I
first,
can't give away my secret drugs. Like, yeah. So there's a lot of, I don't know. I have personally not, I hear a lot of these guys in the mobile home space, bigger players saying brokers. I have personally not used a mobile home specific broker. I have gotten a deal or two from real estate agents that know me because of community networking, etc. But I have not used a specific known mobile home park broker. And I probably will get there. It's just I needed to build the infrastructure, the team, make sure I have the backing of funds that, like, if these brokers come to me and they're like, Rob, I got, this $25 million mobile home park, are you interested? I need to make sure, that I have those couple $1 million for the down payment or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? What I have definitely increased. I have investors currently, and my investor network has definitely gone up, which obviously can make going back to our original point, how do you get the money? Investors. You bring the deal, you will get the money. I promise you. You just got to go on and find it. Like, there are so many Facebook groups, so many money distributing groups out there that will give you the money if you have the fund or the deal. And you might have to take a lesser percentage of what you wanted. And I think this is kind of going off a little tangent here, but I think it's very important. Like, when I first started this, I was like, oh, I want 100% all to myself. I want to own 100% of everything. Me. And I look back now and I'm like, if I had a mentor in this, I would have done this for next to nothing to be able to be part of these deals, learn from them, and then scale and get bigger percentages as, you add value to that company or to your team or to your network, right? So I think that's something to keep in mind to these people that are listening and starting out. You don't need to have it all at first. Be part of it, learn, and then scale.
yeah, and I know in finding the deals, I know you found your first one on Craigslist, and we talked
Yeah.
about just having the drive to do it. So, I mean, a lot of people kind of sit back and wait for the deal to come to them. I
Yeah.
know for a fact and personally that Rob literally went out there and got all the contact information from every mom and pop homeowner or mobile home park owner that he could find and called them himself every day, cold called. And that's literally how he's been scaling. It's literally just the effort.
Yeah.
It's that
Yep.
whole effort thing that you were talking about. That's how he found the deals. He went out himself. He didn't rely on somebody else. Went out himself, found the deals, and built it himself. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Barbara.
and I was going to say, and then that leads us into his question about what does it look like to get into that top 75
Yeah.
mobile home park owner.
Yeah. And it honestly, it becomes easier the bigger you get. And then like the more money that comes in, it becomes so much easier to scale once you put in that effort. Like they always say that first 3 million is so hard, right? And then like after that, it just becomes so much easier. And I'm kind of getting to the point where now don't get me wrong, I'm still on that lower end of that, but like it's becoming a lot. It makes sense. Like I see that now, you know what I mean? Like, being able to afford to build that team, to build that infrastructure to scale quickly. So now when I go and I've built this to where I can go out, buy a property, hey, portfolio manager, here's the property, here's all the stuff you need, and bam, I'm going to look for the next one, or I have the next meeting with the next one. You know what I mean? And we're going to just continually add and add and add. So, it's taken a long time to put that in place. It doesn't happen overnight. But if you put in the effort, keep building, take one little step at a time, you'll get there.
Gotcha. Well, then I'm gonna ask the questions, putting you on the spot. Why are you still a
Yeah.
banker?
Oh, I hope nobody at Bank of America watches this because because it's such a low demand job. The benefits, obviously, hate to say this, the free paycheck. It's remote. It's insanely easy. It takes a fraction of my work week. 99% of my time is spent in real estate. So
Gotcha.
it does not affect my day to day. Or minimally does. So yeah, that's why.
Fair answer. Fair hand.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's hard to leave something like that when it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
low
trust-
demand.
Work for a bit.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
That was my
But-
last year at Facebook.
Yeah.
But to your point, I probably will jump when the time is right, just because it's almost just like every once in a while, just like, it's annoying that I have to do, get on this conference call or whatever. But like, it's gotta be, I have a number in my head where I want to be per month on income. And once I get there, I probably will just focus 100% on real estate.
Nice.
Yeah. So, are we still going to keep looking for mobile home parks? Are we looking for apartments as well? What's the,
So I think both, right? I think mobile home park for me is like my bread and butter. Like it makes most sense to me. I've obviously learned through and through, every step of the way, or, every step that needs to be taken in order to get them turned around. Apartments as well. Like I've literally down to the studs renovations on some of these things, and it's paid off big time. So, obviously I haven't gone like some, B class apartment complexes yet, but I definitely like them. I don't like them quite as much as mobile home park, but, I would be open to either. So,
Nice.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
well, let's jump into your horror story. What happened with your,
Yeah.
with your portfolio manager?
Yeah. So, long story short, I'll try to keep this as
And this was an internal hire that was already
Yeah.
running one of your parks, right?
No, so this was not an internal hire, I guess. So
Okay.
it was for an internal hire. So this was my transition from my third party property management company to my, one portfolio manager. I reached out to this person, found them on Indeed, did the whole normal hiring process, did the references, everything I should have done, right? And he talked the talk and came in. And the sad part is I actually think he knew a lot of what he was doing. Like he was pretty good with a lot of, and that's why I think I let my guard down so much. But he came in and essentially like started stealing from me right out of the gate. He was overpaying himself. But like, I guess my excuse is, and then he was just paying himself a huge chunks of money. And I have no excuse for not like looking at the fund every single day the way I do now. I mean, we have, I don't know, 30, 40 accounts, you know what I mean? So it's like tough to go in and look at all those little things every single day, especially, and at the time, I had brought him in because I had just gotten those 4 properties under contract out in Missouri. So I was like so focused on that whole thing. And then 4 months later, I start seeing like these, well, not 4 months later, but there was little things in between, that I was just like, oh, this is just turbulence. It'll iron out. It'll all be fine. We'll, whatever. And because the majority of the things were fine, operationally. And then I started seeing red flags financially. And I'm just like, where is this money? It doesn't make sense. So I started digging. And I found just a mess. He stole between like credit card purchases and just cash, reserves and stuff that I had. Stole about 125 grand. So obviously the second I found that out, I had to obviously let him go. And then, we have some legal stuff still in the works with that. So then I went on to property manager number 2, and she, after the initial firing, like she brought her on, she was fine, helped in some ways, but lazy. And now I'm on property manager number 3, who is completely the opposite. So it seems, like I said, I think the biggest thing is that she has the big player mobile home park experience. Like she was with those companies for, I think, like six years. So she definitely has the structure, organization, and drive, and knowledge base to really help me scale in specifically mobile home parks, which I'm sure, as you guys know, are kind of a, horse of a different color, right? So, yeah. So I'm excited about it.
Dude, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And yeah, sometimes it takes 3, takes 6, however many to find the right property managers for your team.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle on my side as well. It's hard for anybody to care nearly as much as you do.
Yeah, it is. And most people won't. I would say probably 99% of the employees won't. I have a very strong team. I'm very lucky from top to bottom right now. And even my on-site guys, they feel like they've been here for a while. They really, really care. And you see that in some of just the day-to-day, right? But no one will ever care the way you do. No one will ever have the visions and drive the way you do. And I think you just try to find the closest thing to that, right? In your scaling. And to your point, and I'm sure you can, agree with me here, is within those hardships in this past year is when all that happened. It's almost been about a year to date. And, as bad as it hurt financially and operationally, it taught me so much. It made me so much better of a business owner, in so many different aspects that
Yeah.
I almost feel like it was like worth it. I needed to go through that. You know what I mean? So,
I wish there's a cheaper way to learn, but
Why?
I feel that's why. Man, if somebody was interested in kind of following your path, what resources would you recommend for them to get started and begin learning? Bigger
Yeah.
Pockets sounds like might be one of them, but is there anything else?
Yeah. So me personally, I don't know if Brooks remembers this or not, but Kevin Bubb was, kind of my idol in all of this. So shout out to him if he ever watched this. Like, he basically taught me all the general information with it and some, right? I learned so much from that. And I think, to answer your question directly, again, educating yourself, you have to start there. You have to have a base. You can't go into these, even when you're talking to these mom and pop owners that you're trying to acquire, like, they will read right through you if you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Or if you're just trying to lock up a deal and just, I don't know, they're very cautious, especially like that older boomer generation, that are a lot of these deals that I'm talking about. Like, you just have to really get on their level and figure it out. And then, so after education, like educating yourself, I would say, well, I don't know. I mean, that's a huge part of it. Just go out and get the deal. Like, go out and try to find the deal. You got to put in the effort, pick up the phone, make the phone calls, look on Facebook. I mean, I'm constantly on that, just looking at, look in the group forums. And there's so much free information out there. And then my last
Yeah, you
piece of
probably
it is,
found it up on YouTube, right?
Yeah, YouTube. Yep. That was before like anybody even knew him. Like I was just like, I think I'd heard a podcast that's talking about mobile home parks, and I was like, that sounds like interesting. So I started looking at the mobile home park world because people asked me how I got in the mobile home park niche. And I think it was just like one or two podcasts that I was like, that sounds like something like a niche that I really would like to like travel down to see how I like it. Because there's so many, like I have some Airbnbs, I do that. They're a pain in my butt. Don't really like dealing with them that much, but I do. They're another great revenue, income stream, but whole different beast, right? And I know some guys that have made millions and millions of dollars in Airbnb. But my last point was, as far as getting to, to a place where you want to be, is get a mentor. I did not. My mentors were everybody else's mentors, Kevin Bupp and all these other folks, right? That I listened to their podcast, watched their YouTube videos. Those were my mentors. I would say if you can find somebody, a friend of a friend, or somebody that, you can kind of just, they can take you under the wing and give you just a little bit of advice every now and then, or you can do something for them. Try to learn a little bit more. That would be my biggest piece of advice, right? So I'd be happy to like help anybody that was really wanting to learn and wanting to get into the business. But I think my ask is like, or what any mentor to ask is like, don't waste your time if you're really not like invested. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my biggest thing. Like, I don't want, half effort. You really want to do this and you really want to change your life, because if you get, if you get to scale, like this can change your life, as I'm sure you two know. So, yeah.
So, well, Rob, I appreciate you coming on, telling your story. Hopefully we'll have you on again sometime in the future where maybe we can analyze a deal or something with you and you can kind of show you look at it. But yeah, I'll put all your information in the podcast notes and everything like that. If anybody wants to get a hold of Rob to ask him a question or reach out to him just for advice. So,
or if they've got a deal for him,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
bring Rob a deal. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely partner up or pay you out for it for sure. Like I would definitely, and that's a great way to start too, man. Find a deal for somebody and then partner up with them or get paid out for them and just continue to build that savings account to put down on your next deal.
I know Nick did that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope, I think that's it. I think that's cool. I think that's a wrap. Thank you for joining the Indy Investor Speakeasy.
Yeah.
Back next week.
Thanks for having us.